My name is Richard Hartley, and I am 72 years old. 6 weeks ago, I stood in the emergency room at Phoenix General Hospital and watched the doctors wheel my wife Diane into surgery. My daughter Melissa was beside me, her hand gripping mine, her voice shaking with what I thought was fear for her stepmother. "Dad," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Carlos did this. I know he did. He pushed her. I believed her. God forgive me. I believed every word my daughter said." 4 hours later, while Diane was still in surgery with a fractured skull and broken ribs, the police arrested Carlos Rodriguez outside his apartment. He was 34 years old, a physical therapist working 2 jobs to pay for his younger sister's medical treatments. I watched through my lawyer's phone as they put him in handcuffs, and all I felt was cold, burning rage. But the truth, the real truth, wasn't what Melissa told me. The truth came from Jennifer Park, my estate attorney and family friend. She came to my house 1 week after Diane's fall, carrying a thick folder of documents in her briefcase. "Richard," she said, her voice heavy with something I couldn't identify. "We need to talk. What I need to show you. It's going to change everything you think you know about what happened. What I saw in those documents and security footage destroyed my entire world. It shattered everything I believed about my family. It proved that the daughter I had been grieving with, the child I had been comforting, was the one who tried to kill my wife. And Carlos, the young man I had helped put in jail, was innocent. He had been trying to protect Diane. He had actually tried to prevent the fall. Before you hear the rest of this story, let me ask you, where are you watching from? Please like and subscribe if you've ever discovered that someone you trusted with your whole heart was the one who betrayed you the most. Let me take you back to the beginning, to 5 years ago, when I thought my life was over. My first wife, Linda, died of pancreatic cancer in 2019. We had been married for 38 years. She was a kindergarten teacher, and I was a civil engineer for the city of Phoenix. We had built a good life together in our home in the Desert Oaks area, near Scottsdale. We had 1 daughter, Melissa, and for most of those years, I thought we had done everything right. Linda's death destroyed me. I won't lie about that. Watching her waste away over 8 months, watching the chemo fail, watching her forget words because the cancer had spread to her brain, it broke something in me. After she died, I went through the motions. I ate because my body needed food. I slept because exhaustion forced me to. But I wasn't living. I was just existing in a house full of memories and ghosts. Melissa, she took Linda's death hard too. She had been close to her mother. She was 37 then, working as a real estate agent in Scottsdale. She had never married, never had kids. Linda used to worry about that, used to ask me if Melissa was lonely. After the funeral, Melissa came by every week. She brought casseroles, she sat with me. She cried with me. I thought we were grieving together. I thought we were all each other had left. But then, about 2 years ago, something changed for me. I met Diane Walsh at a grief support group at the community center. She was 66 then, a retired nurse who had lost her husband to a heart attack 3 years earlier. She had kind eyes and a gentle laugh. She didn't try to fix my grief. She just sat with it. We started having coffee after the meetings, then dinners, then long drives through the desert. Diane understood loss in a way that most people didn't. She knew that grief doesn't have a timeline. She knew that loving someone new doesn't erase the person you lost. 18 months ago, I asked Diane to marry me. We had a small ceremony at the courthouse, just us and a few close friends. I didn't tell Melissa until after. I don't know why. Maybe I knew she wouldn't take it well. When I finally called her, her voice went cold. "You remarried? Already?" "Dad, Mom's only been gone 3 years." I tried to explain. "Melissa, your mother would want me to be happy. She wouldn't want me to be alone." There was a long silence. Then Melissa said, "I need some time to process this, Dad." And she hung up. She didn't come around for 2 months. When she finally did, she was polite to Diane, cordial. But there was something in her eyes, something hard and resentful, that I chose to ignore. I told myself she just needed time to adjust. I told myself she would come to love Diane the way I did. But 8 months ago, everything changed again. Diane had a stroke. She was in the kitchen making breakfast when it happened. I heard a crash and ran in to find her on the floor, the left side of her face drooping, unable to speak. The paramedics said we were lucky. We got her to the hospital fast enough that they could give her the clot-busting medication. She survived, but the stroke left damage. Her left side was weak. She had to use a walker. Her speech was slurred. Simple tasks, things she used to do without thinking, now took concentration and effort. The doctor told us she would need physical therapy. Extensive physical therapy. He recommended we hire someone to come to the house 3 times a week to work with her. That's when Jennifer Park, our lawyer, suggested Carlos Rodriguez. Her cousin's husband had used Carlos after a car accident, she said. He was excellent, patient, affordable. He was working his way through graduate school. He needed the hours. I met Carlos on a Tuesday morning in October. He was shorter than I expected, maybe 5'7", with warm brown eyes and calloused hands. He wore simple athletic clothes and carried a worn gym bag. He shook my hand firmly and looked me straight in the eye. "Mr. Hartley," he said in slightly accented English, "I promise I will do everything I can to help Mrs. Hartley recover." And he did. For 6 months, Carlos was a godsend. He came every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 9 in the morning. He worked with Diane for 2 hours each session. He was patient in ways I couldn't be. When Diane got frustrated because she couldn't lift her left leg, Carlos would just smile and say, "That's okay, Mrs. Diane. Yesterday you couldn't lift it at all. Today you lifted it 1 inch. Tomorrow maybe 2 inches. We go slow, but we go forward." He taught her exercises. He massaged her weak muscles. He celebrated every tiny victory. The day she took 3 steps without her walker, Carlos actually had tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Diane, you did it. You did it." Diane, on her good days, would smile and say, "Richard, I like that young man. He reminds me of my nephew. He's got a good heart." I started to relax for the first time since the stroke. I started to believe that Diane would recover, that we would have more years together, that maybe we could even travel again, see the Grand Canyon, visit Sedona like we had planned. But then, Melissa started coming around more. At first, I was happy about it. I thought maybe she was finally accepting Diane, finally moving past her resentment. She would show up on the days Carlos was there. She would watch him work with Diane. She would ask questions. "Carlos, why are you doing that exercise? Is that the standard protocol? Carlos, did you check her blood pressure before you started? You should always check her blood pressure. Carlos, I noticed Mom's watch is missing from her nightstand. Have you seen it?" Carlos would answer professionally, calmly, "I'm doing this exercise because it strengthens her core, which helps with balance." Yes, I checked her blood pressure. It was 118/76. "I haven't seen her watch, Miss Melissa." Perhaps she moved it, but Melissa wouldn't let it go. She started pulling me aside after Carlos left. "Dad, I don't trust him." I frowned. "Carlos, why not? He's been wonderful." Diane's made so much progress. "Dad, he's too interested in your house. Have you noticed how he's always looking around, asking questions about the value of things? And Dad, I checked his background. He's got a criminal record." I felt my stomach drop. "A criminal record?" Melissa nodded, her face serious. "A DUI from 8 years ago. He didn't tell you, did he?" I didn't know what to think. The information felt like a betrayal. But I also knew people made mistakes. Everyone deserved a second chance. Carlos had been nothing but professional with us. "Melissa, that was 8 years ago. People change. He's been good to Diane." "But Dad," Melissa leaned forward, lowering her voice, "there are things missing from the house, small things. That silver picture frame from the hallway, Mom's pearl earrings, the cash you keep in your desk drawer. I've been keeping track." I hadn't noticed anything missing, but then again, I wasn't paying attention. I was focused on Diane, on her recovery. The house was full of things, accumulated over decades. How would I know if a few items were gone? "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice uncertain. "I'm sure, Dad. And there's something else." She pulled out her phone. showed me a screenshot of a social media post. It was Carlos at a restaurant, smiling, holding what looked like a margarita. The caption read, "Good tips this week. Treating myself." The post was dated last Friday. "Look at that, Dad. He's bragging about money. Money he's stealing from you and Diane." I felt sick. I felt betrayed. But I also felt confused. Carlos didn't seem like a thief. He was always so respectful, so dedicated to Diane's care. Melissa, I don't know. This could be from his other job. He works at a sports clinic too. "Dad," Melissa's voice turned sharp. "I'm trying to protect you. You and Diane are vulnerable right now. You're trusting this stranger in your home, giving him access to everything. What if he hurts Diane? What if he's planning something worse?" The words hit me like ice water. Hurts Diane? No, Carlos would never. But Melissa kept talking. "Dad, I read an article last month about home healthcare workers who abuse their patients. It happens more than you think. Please, just be careful. Maybe install some cameras. Maybe limit what he has access to." I promised her I would think about it. That night, I lay in bed next to Diane, who was sleeping soundly, her breathing soft and even. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I was being naive. Was Carlos really stealing from us? Was he dangerous? Or was Melissa being overprotective, paranoid even? The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I counted the cash in my desk drawer. There should have been $400. There was only $280. My heart sank. A week later, Diane's pearl necklace, the one Linda had given her as a wedding gift when I remarried, was gone from her jewelry box. I asked Diane about it. She couldn't remember where she'd put it. The stroke had affected her short-term memory. I asked Carlos about it. He looked genuinely confused. "Mr. Hartley, I've never touched Mrs. Diane's jewelry. I wouldn't. You can search my bag if you want." I didn't search his bag. But the seed of doubt was planted. Melissa called me every other day. "Dad, has anything else gone missing? Dad, did you install those cameras yet? Dad, please be careful." I installed cameras, small ones, hidden in the living room and kitchen. I told myself it was for security, for peace of mind. But really, I was trying to catch Carlos doing something wrong. 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday night, Melissa called me at 11 p.m. Her voice was panicked. "Dad, I need to tell you something. I've been tracking Carlos. I followed him last night. He went to a casino in Scottsdale. Dad, he's gambling. He's got a problem." I felt a wave of concern. "Gambling? Are you sure?" "I saw him, Dad. He was at the poker tables. He lost at least $500 while I was there." "Dad, where do you think he's getting that money?" Everything clicked into place in my mind. The missing cash, the missing jewelry, the social media posts about treating himself. Carlos was stealing from us to feed a gambling addiction. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Melissa, I had no idea." "Dad, you need to fire him. Tomorrow. Before he takes anything else. Before he hurts Diane." "But Melissa, Diane's made so much progress. We need him." There was a long pause. Then Melissa said, carefully, "Dad, I can take over. I can come by 3 times a week. I can help with Diane's exercises. I've been watching Carlos. I know what to do. And Dad, I'm family. You can trust me." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that firing Carlos was the right thing to do, that Melissa would step up, that everything would be okay. The next morning, I called Carlos and told him we no longer needed his services. He was silent for a long moment. "Mr. Hartley, why? Did I do something wrong?" I couldn't say it. I couldn't accuse him directly. "Carlos, we've decided to handle Diane's therapy differently. My daughter is going to help. But Mr. Hartley," his voice was tight, controlled. "If this is about money, if someone said I took something, I didn't. I swear on my sister's life, I have never stolen from you. There's nothing to discuss, Carlos. Thank you for your help." I hung up before he could say anything else. I felt like a coward, but I told myself I was protecting Diane. I was protecting our home. Melissa moved in the next week. She said she wanted to be there full-time, to help me with Diane, to make sure Diane got the care she needed. "It's what family does, Dad," she said, hugging me tight. I should have been there from the start. For 1 week, Melissa was there every day. She helped Diane with her exercises. She cooked meals. She cleaned the house. She seemed like a different person, like the daughter I remembered from before Linda died, caring, attentive, present. Diane was confused at first. "Where's Carlos?" she would ask. "He's not coming anymore, sweetie," I would say. "Melissa's helping you now." Diane would frown, but she didn't argue. The stroke had made her more passive, less able to advocate for herself. But I noticed something. Diane wasn't improving anymore. In fact, she seemed to be getting weaker. She was more tired. She slept more. She seemed disoriented. When I mentioned it to Melissa, she waved it off. "Dad, she's just adjusting to the new routine. Give it time." Then, 2 weeks ago, on a Thursday afternoon, it happened. I was in my study, paying bills. Melissa was supposedly with Diane in the bedroom, helping her get ready for a nap. I heard a scream, a terrible, bone-chilling scream. I ran toward the sound. Diane was at the bottom of the stairs, crumpled on the hardwood floor. Blood was pooling under her head. Melissa was at the top of the stairs, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. "Oh my God, Dad! She fell! She just fell! I didn't see!" I was in the bathroom. I rushed to Diane. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow. I called 911, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. The operator stayed on the line with me. "Sir, don't move her. Keep her still. An ambulance is on the way." Melissa came down the stairs slowly, her face pale. "Dad, I don't understand. She was just standing there. I told her to wait for me. I was only gone for a minute. The paramedics arrived within 7 minutes. They stabilized Diane, put a neck brace on her, loaded her onto a stretcher. One of them, a young woman with kind eyes, asked me, 'Sir, does your wife use a walker?' 'Yes,' I said. 'Always. She can't walk without it.' The paramedic frowned. 'There's no walker near the stairs. How did she get there?' I looked around. She was right. Diane's walker was still in the bedroom. How had Diane gotten to the stairs without it? At the hospital, the doctors told me Diane had a fractured skull, 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and severe internal bleeding. She was in surgery for 6 hours. Melissa sat with me in the waiting room. She cried. She held my hand. She kept saying, "I should have been watching her. I should have stayed with her. It's my fault." I told her it wasn't her fault. Accidents happen. But I was scared, terrified. Diane had been doing so well. Why would she suddenly try to walk to the stairs alone, without her walker? It didn't make sense. When the surgeon finally came out, her face was grim. "Mr. Hartley, your wife is stable, but she's in critical condition. The next 48 hours will be crucial. You should prepare yourself. There's a possibility she might not wake up." I felt my world collapse. Not again. I couldn't lose another wife. I couldn't go through this again. That night, after we left the hospital, Melissa made me tea. We sat in the kitchen, both of us exhausted. "Dad," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something. I hesitated to say anything before, but now I think you need to know." I looked at her, too tired to speak. "It's about Carlos," she continued. "Dad, I think he came back. I think he did something to the stairs." I stared at her. "What? What are you talking about?" "Dad, remember when I fired him for you? I called him to make sure he understood. He was so angry. He said we'd regret this. He said we didn't know what we'd done. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to worry you." My stomach turned. "Carlos threatened you?" "Not directly," Melissa said. "But the tone, Dad, it was scary." "And now this? Diane falling downstairs she shouldn't have been able to reach? What if he came back? What if he sabotaged something? What if he wanted revenge?" The police came to take a statement the next morning. Melissa told them everything. "Our former physical therapist," she said. "We had to fire him for stealing. He was angry. He threatened us. We think he might have come back and done something." The officer, a Detective Morgan, took notes. "Ma'am, do you have any evidence of this?" Melissa pulled out her phone. "I have the call where he threatened me." She played a recording. It was Carlos's voice, but the audio was choppy. "You don't understand what you're doing. You're making a mistake. This isn't over. The detective frowned. That's pretty vague, ma'am. Not really a direct threat. But Melissa kept going. He had keys to the house, detective. My dad never changed the locks after firing him. He could have come back any time. And I found something. She pulled out a small plastic bag. In it was a screwdriver. I found this in the bushes outside. By the back door, the one Carlos always used. The detective took the bag. We'll look into it. Can you give me Mr. Rodriguez's address? They arrested Carlos that afternoon. I wasn't there, but Melissa told me about it. She said he denied everything. He said he hadn't been near our house in 2 weeks. He said he had alibis for every day. He said he would never hurt Diane. But Detective Morgan said they found traces of wood dust in Carlos's car. Wood dust that matched our stair railing. They said he must have been working on it, loosening it somehow. The evidence seemed clear. Carlos Rodriguez had tried to kill my wife. The district attorney charged him with attempted murder. His bail was set at $250,000. He couldn't afford it. He sat in jail while we waited for Diane to wake up. She did wake up 5 days after the fall, but she wasn't the same. The head injury had caused more damage. She couldn't speak in full sentences. She couldn't remember things. She didn't even recognize me at first. The doctors said it would take months, maybe years of therapy. Maybe she would never fully recover. I sat by her bedside every day. Melissa came with me. She brought flowers. She talked to Diane, even though Diane couldn't respond. She seemed so devoted, so caring. I thought, maybe this tragedy is bringing us together. Maybe something good can come from something so terrible. But then, 1 week after Diane woke up, Jennifer Park called me. Richard, I need to come by your house. Today. It's urgent. Jennifer had been my attorney for 15 years. She handled Linda's estate when she died. She helped me set up my will, my trust. She was more than a lawyer. She was a friend. I trusted her completely. Why? I asked. What's wrong? Just let me come over, Richard. Please. It's important. She arrived at 3 p.m., carrying a leather briefcase. Melissa was at the hospital with Diane. We were alone. Jennifer sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd sat with Melissa 100 times over the past weeks. Richard, she began, her voice shaking slightly. Something's come up with your estate. I was reviewing your accounts for the annual trust update, and I found some irregularities. Irregularities? What do you mean? She pulled out a thick folder. Richard, someone has been taking money out of your home equity line of credit, large amounts. Over the past 8 months, there have been withdrawals totaling $85,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? That's impossible. I haven't touched that account. I know, Jennifer said, but someone has. And Richard, she opened the folder, showing me documents. The signature on these withdrawal forms. It's not yours. I looked at the papers. The signature was close to mine, but not quite right. Who would do this? Jennifer took a deep breath. Richard, I checked the dates of these withdrawals. They correlate exactly with the days Melissa visited you. Every single one. I couldn't breathe. Melissa? No. No, she wouldn't. Jennifer, that's my daughter. She wouldn't steal from me. Richard, there's more. She pulled out more papers. I did some checking. Melissa's real estate business has been failing for 2 years. She's in debt. Serious debt. She owes money to some very dangerous people. I found court records showing she's being sued by a loan shark operation. They're trying to collect $120,000 from her. And Richard, she took out a second mortgage on her condo 6 months ago. She's underwater. She's desperate. I felt like the room was spinning. But she's been helping me. She's been taking care of Diane. Why would she? For your estate, Richard. Jennifer's voice was gentle but firm. You're worth over $800,000 with the house, your pension, your savings. And Richard, your will. The one you signed 3 years ago. It leaves everything to Melissa if something happens to you and Diane. I didn't know how to process what I was hearing. My daughter, my only child. She was stealing from me? But there's something else, Jennifer said quietly. Something worse. I called a private investigator, a friend of mine. I asked him to look into the incident with Diane. Richard, Carlos didn't do it. What? What are you talking about? Jennifer pulled out more papers. These are receipts from a hardware store. 1 week before Diane fell, Melissa bought a set of screwdrivers, a power drill, and wood putty. She paid cash, but the store has her on security footage. Richard, I think she loosened the screws on your stair railing, and then I think she lured Diane to the stairs. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a tablet. And Richard, I got this from your Ring doorbell. You have one on your front door, right? I nodded numbly. Yes. I forgot about it. I barely check it. I know. But it keeps footage for 60 days. Jennifer turned the tablet toward me. Let me show you something. She played a video. It was dated 2 weeks ago, the morning of Diane's fall. The timestamp showed 10:47 a.m. In the video, I could see inside through the glass panel next to the door. I could see the stairs, and I could see Melissa. She was at the top of the stairs with Diane. Diane had her walker. She was moving slowly. Then Melissa said something I couldn't hear. She reached over and took the walker. She moved it into the bedroom, out of Diane's reach. Then Melissa came back and said something else to Diane. Diane looked confused. She started to move toward the stairs. Melissa stepped back, into the bathroom. Out of sight, Diane reached for the railing, and then she fell. The video showed Diane tumbling down the stairs, her body hitting each step. It showed her lying motionless at the bottom. And it showed Melissa waiting for a full 30 seconds before she screamed, before she pretended to have just discovered the fall. I felt vomit rise in my throat. I ran to the sink and threw up everything in my stomach. Jennifer stood behind me, her hand on my shoulder. Richard, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But you need to see this. Your daughter tried to kill Diane. She's been planning this. And Carlos, Richard, he had nothing to do with it. The screwdriver in the bushes? I checked the serial number. It's from the set Melissa bought. She planted it. I couldn't stand. I sank to the floor, my back against the cabinets. Why? Why would she do this? For the money, Richard. For your estate. If Diane died, and you were elderly, alone, grieving, Melissa thought she could control everything. She could have power of attorney. She could drain your accounts. And eventually, when you died, she'd inherit it all. Jennifer knelt next to me. Richard, there's more. The investigator dug deeper. Carlos never threatened Melissa. That recording she played for the police? It was edited, spliced together from different parts of a conversation. Carlos was saying, "You don't understand what you're doing by firing me. Mrs. Diane needs consistent therapy. You're making a mistake for her health." And he said, "This isn't over," meaning her recovery journey wasn't over. Melissa took those sentences and made them sound like threats. And the wood dust in his car? Jennifer shook her head. Carlos is a physical therapist. He builds custom exercise equipment in his garage for his clients. Of course there's wood dust in his car. It's not from your railing. It's from his workshop. I don't know how long I sat there on that floor. Minutes, hours. Time didn't mean anything anymore. My daughter, my little girl, the child Linda and I had raised, had loved, had sacrificed for. She had tried to kill my wife. She had framed an innocent man. She had stolen from me. She had lied to me, and I had believed every word. Eventually, Jennifer helped me up. "Richard," she said, "we need to call Detective Morgan. We need to show him this evidence. Carlos needs to be released, and Melissa needs to be arrested." I nodded, unable to speak. Jennifer made the call. Detective Morgan arrived within the hour. Jennifer showed him everything. The financial records, the hardware store receipts, the Ring doorbell footage, the analysis of the edited audio, the investigator's report. Morgan's face grew darker with every piece of evidence. "Mr. Hartley," he said when Jennifer finished, "I'm sorry. We made a terrible mistake. We'll release Mr. Rodriguez immediately. And we need to bring your daughter in for questioning." They arrested Melissa at the hospital while she was sitting next to Diane's bed. She had been reading to Diane from a book of poems, playing the devoted stepdaughter. When they told her she was under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and obstruction of justice, her face went white. "No," she said. "No, you've got it wrong. It was Carlos. He did this." Detective Morgan shook his head. "We have video footage, Miss Hartley. We have financial records. We have evidence that you planned and executed this attack on your stepmother, and that you framed Mr. Rodriguez." Melissa looked at me then, really looked at me, and her face changed. The mask of the loving, concerned daughter fell away. In its place was something cold, something calculating, something I'd never seen before. "Dad," she said, her voice flat, "you just don't get it, do you?" "What don't I get, Melissa?" I whispered. "You had everything, you and Linda, and then you and Diane, the house, the money, the perfect retirement. And what did I get? Nothing. You gave me nothing." "You paid for my college," I said, my voice breaking. "We helped you start your business. We've given you money whenever you asked. It wasn't enough." Her voice was rising now. "You should have left everything to me when Mom died. But no. You had to go find someone new. You had to give half of my inheritance to some woman you barely knew. That woman is my wife. She's been good to you, Melissa. She's been kind. She tried to replace my mother." Melissa's voice was venomous. "And you let her. You let her take Mom's place. Take my place. I needed that money, Dad. I deserved that money. My business is failing. I'm drowning in debt. And you're sitting on $800,000, living your happy little life with your new wife while I'm struggling." "So you tried to kill her?" My voice was barely audible. "I was ending her suffering," Melissa said, as if it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "She's already damaged from the stroke. She's not going to get better. I was just speeding up the inevitable. And Dad, I would have taken care of you. I would have been there. We could have been together, just the two of us again, like before." Detective Morgan stepped forward. "Melissa Hartley, you have the right to remain silent." As they read her rights, Melissa started screaming, "You're all against me. You don't understand. I did what I had to do. That woman stole my father. She stole my inheritance. Carlos is the criminal, not me. He's the immigrant. He's the one you should arrest." They led her out in handcuffs. I stood there, frozen, unable to move. My daughter, my only child, the last piece of Linda I had left. And she was a monster. The next few weeks were a nightmare of police statements, lawyer meetings, and court hearings. The evidence against Melissa was overwhelming. The video footage, the financial records showing she'd stolen $85,000 through the forged documents. Testimony from the hardware store employee who remembered her buying the tools. Text messages they recovered from her phone where she'd discussed her plan with the loan shark, trying to explain why she couldn't pay him back yet. "Wait until after the fall," she'd written. "I'll have the money then." And the forensics report on the stair railing. Melissa had loosened 4 screws, just enough that when Diane put weight on it, it would give way. She'd even filled the screw holes with matching wood putty to hide what she'd done. Carlos's lawyer said he planned to sue the city, sue the police department, sue Melissa. What they did to him was a civil rights violation, the lawyer said. He spent 2 weeks in jail for a crime he didn't commit. He lost both his jobs. His reputation was destroyed. His sister's surgery had to be postponed because he couldn't make the payments. He deserves compensation. I knew he was right. But more than that, I knew I owed Carlos an apology that no amount of money could adequately express. I found out where he was staying, at his cousin's apartment in Mesa. I drove there on a Saturday morning, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. His cousin answered the door. She looked at me with such anger, such pain. "What do you want?" "I need to speak to Carlos. I need to apologize. You destroyed his life," she said coldly. "You believed your lying daughter over a good man who never did anything but try to help." "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "I know, and I'm so sorry. Please, just 5 minutes." She stared at me for a long moment, then stepped aside. "He's in the living room, but if you upset him, you leave." Carlos was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. When he saw me, he stiffened. "Mr. Hartley." "Carlos," I said, walking closer but keeping distance. "I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to make this right, but I am so sorry. I was wrong about you. I believed Melissa because she's my daughter, because I wanted to trust her. I let my fear and my bias blind me to the truth. You were innocent. You were trying to help Diane, and I destroyed your life. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, quietly, "Do you know what it's like to be arrested for something you didn't do? To have everyone assume you're guilty because of your accent, because of where you come from? I spent 2 weeks in jail, Mr. Hartley. 2 weeks of people treating me like I was a violent criminal. I lost my job at the clinic because they said I was a liability. I lost my clients. My sister, she needed surgery for her spine. We had to cancel it because I couldn't pay. She's in pain every day. And now, when people Google my name, the first thing they see is that I was arrested for attempted murder. It doesn't matter that the charges were dropped. The damage is done." I sat down, my legs giving out. "You're right. You're absolutely right. What I did, what Melissa did, we destroyed your life. And I can never take that back. But Carlos, I want to try to make it right. I will do everything I can. I will testify on your behalf in any lawsuit. I will give statements to the press clearing your name. I will pay for your sister's surgery. I will compensate you for every dollar you lost. I will make sure the world knows you're innocent." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Mrs. Diane, how is she? She's alive. She's recovering. But the fall caused more brain damage. She's going to need years of therapy. Maybe she'll never fully recover." Carlos nodded slowly. "I want to see her." "What? You want me to stay away from her? I want to make sure she doesn't think I hurt her. If she can understand, I need her to know I would never hurt her." I felt tears streaming down my face. "Carlos, of course you can see her." A week later, I brought Carlos to the rehabilitation facility where Diane was staying. She was in bed, her head bandaged, her left side still weak. When she saw Carlos, her eyes lit up. "Carlos," she said, her speech slow and slurred. "You came, Mrs. Diane," he said, sitting next to her bed. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry I wasn't there to protect you. Carlos, you tried to tell me about the railing. You tried to warn me. I should have listened. You did nothing wrong." She reached out with her right hand. Carlos took it. They sat there for a long time, not speaking, just being present with each other. It was the first moment of peace I'd felt in months. The trial was short. Melissa's lawyer tried to argue that she was mentally unstable, that she was suffering from grief over Linda's death, that she hadn't meant to hurt anyone, but the evidence was too strong. The jury took less than 3 hours to convict her of attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and obstruction of justice. The judge sentenced her to 12 years in state prison. She'll be eligible for parole in 8. I sat in that courtroom and watched my daughter be led away in chains. She didn't look at me, not once. And I realized, sitting there, that the Melissa I thought I knew had never existed. She had always been this person. I had just been too blind, too hopeful, too desperate for a loving family to see it. After the trial, I did what I promised. I paid for Carlos's sister, Maria's spinal surgery. It cost $80,000. I gave Carlos $50,000 to compensate for his lost wages and jobs. I paid for his therapy because he was suffering from PTSD from the false arrest. I wrote letters to every news outlet in Phoenix, setting the record straight. I did a television interview explaining what really happened, clearing Carlos's name publicly. And I did one more thing. I sold the house in Desert Oaks. I couldn't live there anymore. Every room held memories of Melissa's lies, of Diane's fall, of my failures. I moved Diane and myself to an assisted living community in Tempe. It's smaller, simpler, but it's safe. Diane is getting therapy there 5 days a week. She's slowly improving. She may never fully recover, but she's trying. And I'm trying to forgive myself for being so blind. I took what was left of my savings and created something called the Maria and Carlos Rodriguez Foundation for Immigrant Healthcare Workers. It provides scholarships for nursing students and physical therapists who are immigrants or first-generation Americans. It helps cover the costs when they face discrimination or false accusations. It's my penance, my way of trying to create something good from something so terrible. Carlos didn't want to be involved at first, but eventually he agreed to be on the board. We meet once a month now, Carlos, Jennifer, and me, to review applications and choose recipients. We don't talk much about what happened. We focus on the future, on helping others, on making sure what happened to Carlos never happens to someone else. Yesterday, I got a letter. It was from Melissa. She writes to me sometimes from prison. I haven't opened any of them, but this one, for some reason, I did. It was short. Dad, I'm sorry you were too weak to understand what I was trying to do. I was protecting our family. I was protecting what Mom left us. That woman didn't belong in our family. She was taking what should have been mine. One day you'll understand I was right. I read it twice. Then I walked to the shredder in my apartment and destroyed it. She was wrong. She would always be wrong. What she did wasn't protection. It was attempted murder. It was greed. It was the darkest kind of betrayal. Diane is sitting next to me now as I tell this story. Her speech is better than it was. She can walk short distances with a cane. She still has bad days where she can't remember things. But she's here. She's alive. And Carlos, he just got accepted into a doctoral program at Arizona State University. He's going to be a doctor of physical therapy. He's going to teach the next generation how to care for people with dignity and compassion. He's going to be exactly the kind of person the world needs. Tom, Jennifer Park, she still checks on me. She makes sure I'm managing my finances properly, that I'm not being taken advantage of. She's become more than my lawyer. She's become my friend, my protector in ways I didn't know I needed. This is my story. This is my confession. This is my warning to anyone listening. Don't let blood blind you to the truth. Don't assume that family means loyalty or that children will always honor their parents. Sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you trust most, are the ones who will hurt you the deepest. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them, even if it breaks your heart. Pay attention to the people who show up not just with words but with actions. Carlos was an immigrant, a stranger, someone I didn't know, but he showed up every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday with patience and care. He celebrated Diane's tiny victories. He tried to protect her even when I wouldn't listen. He was family in ways that mattered more than blood. And Melissa, my daughter, my flesh and blood, she showed me that DNA doesn't guarantee love. It doesn't guarantee morality. It doesn't mean someone has your best interests at heart. She showed me that evil can wear a familiar face, can smile with your eyes, can carry your last name. What would you have done if you discovered your own child was capable of trying to murder your spouse for money? Let me know in the comments. And please, tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Have you ever realized too late that you were wrong about someone? I want to hear your stories, because if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that we're not alone in our pain. We're not alone in our mistakes. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing our stories, we can help someone else avoid the same mistakes we made. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And please, watch over the vulnerable people in your life. Protect them, believe them, and never assume that family is always right just because they're family.